It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you in studio today. If you spend much time driving back and forth between Sedona and Cottonwood, like many of us do, you'll notice a large project going on at the Sedona Wastewater Treatment Plant, which is, of course, located between Cottonwood and Sedona. Now, we've always had a little bit of a wetland there, but now there's a much larger project going on. And Charles Mosley, the Sedona Public Works Director and City Engineer, is in studio today to tell us about that project. And it looks like it started back in November, Charles.
Yes, it did.
Thanks for coming into studio today.
You're welcome.
I've been driving by it, and the first time I went by it was just, I noticed that all the bushes and shrubs and grasses and stuff were gone. The ground had been kind of leveled out, and then I drive by again and I noticed there's some big tractors and trucks out there moving dirt around.
Right.
And then this last Tuesday when I drove by it, it's really starting to take shape, and you can tell what's going on out there, but I got really interested. I needed to have you come in and talk about it.
Okay.
We had the little wetlands built out there at the Sedona Wastewater Treatment Plant, but we're getting much bigger.
Right. We're basically changing the configuration of what was out there to provide more open water. Before, we basically flooded the area, and then the grass and so forth would grow in it, but you didn't have a lot of open water. And what we're looking at now is having a lot more open water along with the plants. And it came about because what we're trying to do is look at how we can increase the amount of water that we can dispose of from the treatment process. And so what we're thinking is that if we allow more evaporation by having open water, then it should improve the process. And so this is the first, you might say, pilot area. And so we changed the configuration to have more open water out there.
It's a big pilot area. I mean, before, like you said, it was just, you had the little wetland area, you'd see ducks and birds in there all the time,
Right.
And then it was just a lot of grass.
Right.
And I don't know, did you have the sprayers out there? But you just flooded that ground there.
Yes, we basically just flooded the ground, and so we initially were going to start out with about 10 acres, but then the council decided they wanted to do 27 acres, so we expanded the project to 27 acres from 10 acres, and based on that expansion, we are doing new berms, making the water deeper so it's more open water, and it's of course going to attract different kind of life there.
Sure.
And the idea, though, is if we have a variety of habitats there, we'll increase it as an attractive area, for people to come for wetlands. But one of the main purpose basically has to do with the idea that we want to enhance our ability to deal with treated wastewater. And we think we can do that by increasing the evaporation rate, and that means more open water.
Sure. Now, how many gallons are we dealing with a day right now?
Right now, we deal with about 1.2 million gallons per day. That's about what comes into the plant. It'll vary, 1.2, 1.3. And so we have to manage that amount of water.
Okay. And then with the wetland being brought in, what's that going to bump up the capacity then?
Right now, we think it'll still remain to about 1.2, 1.3. Part of the purpose of the wetland at the size it is right now is to observe how that wetland works and use that information to model what expansion of the system might mean as far as helping us to dispose of wastewater. Because the expansion of the system at the wastewater plant to deal with the treated water, we're thinking now may involve wetlands, of course, may continue to involve some spray irrigation and injection of water. And what we need to do with regard to the wetland area, as well as the injection, is to get, you might say, experimental data.
Okay.
And then that can be plugged into a model, and then we can say, okay, we have 2 million gallons per day we want to manage. So this is the best way to do it. This much wetland, this much injection.
What's the injection?
Injection is taking water and putting it down into the aquifer. Okay. Yeah, highly treated water.
Directly or?
Directly.
Okay, directly. Now these wetlands that you're building, you talk about evaporation, and that's obvious. The sun's going to pull that up, and we're going to have plants around it and everything else, and they're going to use that water and help evaporate it. Do you line these ponds, or is this also? I mean, we got it trickling through the bottom, correct?
That's correct. These are unlined ponds that we have, and so the water will be trickling through, and the plants will be taking up some of the water, and also the sun through evaporation. So it's our expectation that we'll get a fairly decent rate, and we'll measure that rate and then put it in the model and see, okay, how much wetlands, how much injection, how much spraying.
Do we know how much actually gets seeped into the ground? Is there a way to judge that?
There's been some experience. It's a fairly small amount because the rock layer, you might say, is fairly high in that area, so you don't get as much seepage.
Okay. So the sun's taking it away from you then, basically.
So I think we're going to really rely heavily on evaporation as well as transpiration through the plants.
Okay. So where are we at today with the project? Well, it's been underway for, what, a couple of months now?
Yeah, since November.
Okay.
We are anticipating being done around the end of April, and it's pretty well on schedule right now.
It seems to be moving along pretty quick out there.
Yes, it is moving along pretty quick. It's actually had two parts. The contractor that's doing the grading work out there that you see, the contract that he bid on included the wetlands as well as upgrading an ultraviolet facility that we have within the plant.
Okay.
And so he's working on those two elements, and he looks like he's on schedule. So we're pleased, and it seems to be doing a very good job.
So we have this coming up in April when it's going to be finished. What's the cost of a project like this?
Well, the whole project, the ultraviolet upgrade, the lights that we're putting in to help treat the water better, as well as the wetlands, is about $2.5 million. The wetland part is about $1.5 million.
All right. Let's take our first break.
Okay.
Charles Mosley in studio today. He's Sedona Public Works Director and City Engineer. I'm Paul David. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll be right back with more Countywide.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey, honey.
What's up, buddy?
Honey? I think he's been smoking pot.
Call 911. It's okay, Joey. I'm here. Can you hear me, son?
I'm right here.
Are you with
Is he
me?
breathing?
He's not responsive.
Hello?
Honey, give me a steak knife and a ballpoint pen.
What are you
now,
doing?
Stop. I'm gonna do mouth to mouth.
You know lots of ways to help your child, but do you know what to do if they're using drugs? The partnership at drugfree.org can help.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David, Sedona Public Works Director and City Engineer Charles Mosley in studio. We're talking about the Wetlands project being built between Cottonwood and Sedona, right there at the Sedona Wastewater Treatment Plant. Let's describe it. Now, we've got an image that we're going to put up on the TV, but you've got one in front of you there, too. So kind of take us for a walk around there and tell us what we're seeing that's being built on this 27 acres.
Okay, if we start at the top of which is basically the north side towards Sedona, we have the entrance to it, and the first area, which is the top two ponds, will have a different surface than the rest. The trails around it will have a different surface. It'll be a harder packed surface, easier to walk.
Okay.
And we deliberately done that for the people that may want to take a short walk and not the long walk around the whole 27 acres. And we gave them a more comfortable path. Hopefully people that may have disabilities will find it easier to enjoy the area. Then we have several other ponds, and you'll notice that in several of the ponds there are islands.
Right.
And those islands were put in as habitat for certain species that like to live on islands, but it also provides a protected area for some birds and nesting animals that predators may not find it easy to get to.
Who gave you some influence on this? Who kind of came in and said, okay, these are kind of the animals we're seeing out there living, and decided that you need to put some islands out there just in case? What type of species are we talking about?
Well, I'm not conversant, not being a biologist,
right,
with all the species, but we did work with the Audubon Society.
Okay.
We worked with Arizona Fish and Game, and they actually sit on what we call a Citizens Expert Advisory group that continue to help us with the development of this wetlands. And they give input on the plants, they talk about the habitat, they reviewed it to look at what kinds of features would help, different kinds of birds, different kinds of animals that are likely to come to the area. And they're also going to help us with the, what you might call the visitor recreation amenities that we want to add to the area. Some parking area and perhaps a place for people to sit, things like that.
Well, yeah, since you brought it up, I guess we might as well mention that this is actually going to be open to the public now. The one that's out there right now, you could never go up to it.
Right, you had to, if you wanted to go in, Audubon Society, the Verde Valley Birding Festival would occasionally come to the plant and use it, but you needed to contact our wastewater superintendent. This facility will be open to the public from dawn to dusk is what we're thinking.
Okay.
And they will be able to come in here, and if they're biking, down 89A and want to stop in, they can stop in, or they want to drive to the area. We will have a parking area, and they will be able to go in and walk the area without having to get special permission.
Now, is it just for walking, or mountain bikers, or anybody else want to go in there with mountain bikes? Is that possible, or we're going to keep it just for walking?
It'll basically be walking. If someone wants to be jogging in the area or walking, those types of activities. If someone's, biking, then we would have them park their bike, in an area that we would provide for that. But it's mainly walking.
The trails. How many miles of trails are we talking about on this thing?
I haven't. I don't remember the exact total, but I know it's a good couple of miles. So it's a fairly healthy trail system.
Okay. All right. And we're expecting this to open in April with everything else, because it's kind of a guinea pig stage in regards to the public use of the area.
That's correct. We are thinking that it will really open to the public in the summer.
Okay. We
hope to finish the project in April, but really the opening, if you will probably be sometime in the summer.
Okay. Now why don't we, if we can pull that picture back up on the screen, Ryan, we'll keep going down and talking about it. We're about halfway through the project right now.
Right. As you can see, there's several different areas with islands. We had initially wanted to do a boardwalk. That won't be put in at this time.
Okay.
We had kind of a central overlook area that island area, which is in the kind of the second area down, will be there, but the overlook won't be constructed.
Okay.
I guess I say that to point out that we're thinking that we'd like to, as the area grows in popularity, add things to it. You probably will notice this, just to show the size, we put a football field down in one of the southern corners.
Because when I saw the picture, I was like, oh, you're going to have a football field out there, and then you said, no, it's...
Yeah, we're just trying to show how big these water areas are. And they're fairly large water areas. You could put several football fields in this 27-acre area. And then also there's an existing wetland at the southern side, and we're actually going to make a connection to that.
So then that'll be incorporated into it, and you'll be able to walk around that one as well?
Or walk to it.
Walk to it.
You may not be able to walk all the way around it. The path shown all the way around on this particular drawing is not going in, but you'll certainly be able to get to this one. And this one has been there for many years, so it's a well-established wetland. So you'll be able to see a wetlands that are maturing, and you'll be able to see one that's pretty mature.
Wow, okay. Now, one concern I imagine everybody has is you throw the word treated effluent and wastewater treatment plant is, oh my gosh, isn't there going to be a horrible smell out there?
No.
Address that one for me.
No, this is treated water.
Okay.
So it's not smelly water. We're also upgrading our plant to treat to what's called A+ level water. Right now we treat to B water, and we can put that in the ponds, and that's pretty good water. But we're going to upgrade the water to B+, and that's part of what the ultraviolet lights that we're putting in for the water to flow through up in the plant. They're supposed to kill more organisms and make the water even cleaner than what it is now.
No swimming here.
No swimming.
No swimming, okay. No swimming. So it's going to be a nice walk, and I picture bird watchers out there a lot, and people who just like to walk and hike and stuff being out there.
Yes. The Audubon Society, you know...
I bet they're real excited.
Yes, they are, and they've participated heavily in this, and we expect that birding, which is one of the largest tourist attractions in the United States, they will find this area interesting and very attractive.
Yeah, they will be flocking to it, I imagine. Most definitely. All right, let's take our second break. Okay, Charles Mosley, Director, Sedona Public Works Director and City Engineer in studio today. I'm Paul David. We're talking about the wetlands being built at the Sedona Wastewater Treatment Plant. Stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Packers. Viking. Packers. Viking. Viking.
Red state. Blue state. Vegan.
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown. Downtown.
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty. Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities, our families, united. Even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have two ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Welcome back to Countywide. Good to have you in studio. We've got just a few minutes left in the program. Okay, so we've got this, the wetlands coming in April. It should be done, and then eventually we're going to have the public be able to go in there, nice parking area, trails to walk on, all kinds of neat stuff out there for the wetlands. I imagine it's a ton of plants that have to be planted out there to begin with.
That's correct. Yeah. The contractor, you'll probably see them starting to plant some plants soon. We'll probably be using some volunteers to plant a few plants in the next few months. I would think hundreds,
if not thousands.
There's certainly hundreds, thousands of plants.
Yeah.
Yes. But the volunteers will probably be planting, a little over 100, 200 plants in there.
Have you got all the volunteers lined up, or do you want to do a little news story later on down the road that says, hey, we need volunteers?
Right now, we think we're pretty good, but if it starts not
if you need
like
something, let us know.
We'll issue a call.
Okay. Now let's jump across the highway. Let's say this project does fantastic and it works out great, and we've got all this wonderful evaporation going on. Is it possible that the cows across the highway are going to lose their house and all those irrigations going on out there if this works out really well?
I think if it works out well, with the expansion of the wetlands, we certainly have thought about going to the other side of the road. And if that's the case, then the cows won't have their current pasturage, or it'll be smaller, one of the two. But yes, we have envisioned that might happen.
Okay, all right. And then how much, now the 1.6 or 1.2 million gallons a day, does that include what's going on over on that other side of the highway, or is that just for the wetland side?
No, that's everything. That's the amount of wastewater that comes into the plant, and then we have to treat it. And we have, the 300 plus acres, you talk about disposal on the plant side as well as on the other side of the highway. We use about 300 acres to spray the water, flood it, to deal with it after it's treated.
Maintenance. Now, you're building a giant wetland out there. It's obviously going to take maintenance. Do you guys have kind of a yearly proposed budget for that, and how much it's going to cost, and actually who's going to be in charge of doing that?
Well, the people that will be in charge of it will be our wastewater division of Public Works, and they will be the ones actually making sure that if the plants need to be thinned in order to keep the right amount of open water, or we need to dredge out an area in order to keep it at proper depth, they'll be doing that, and we'll be setting the budget, as we go through the process and get more experience with these kinds of areas.
Do you think it's going to require more employees to be able to handle something like that? I mean, it's one thing to have a field of grass that's flooded and then you cut it once in a while, but this is a much more in-depth project. I mean, we've got trails, we've got the plants, the water, everything else that's going on out there.
At this point, we are not thinking that we're going to need a lot more employees. We use something called job order contracting from time to time, where we hire a contractor for heavy work, which we don't do a lot of, so we feel it's better to go to the private sector, ask them, if we can contract with them, and then bring them on as we need them. That way we don't maintain, heavy equipment for something we do once or twice a year.
Real quick, how long will the study thing take? Because this is like a guinea pig thing again. How long will you look at these figures out there that you receive from this wetland once it's done before you decide what you'll do next, if anything?
I believe at this point it's going to take a couple of years. Looking at the injection, as well as looking at the results we're getting from the wetland. We actually started this process around 2005 because we knew it would take quite a number of years to look at the information, get something built, designed, so we could increase our, we call it effluent management capacity up to the 2 million gallons per day we needed. So 2 years, we feel like we're getting close.
All right, well, we're out of time. Charles Mosley, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next week.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.